Hello, and welcome to the Spontaneous Brilliance Podcast. I am so glad to be back here with you. And I've been thinking a lot about abundance lately. And specifically, I've been thinking about our abundance paradigms. And a paradigm is just a collection of thoughts and beliefs and perceptions and concepts and underlying assumptions about whatever. And the abundance paradigm that we have, whoever we are, is singular to us. We chose it. We learned it from the people, the information, the situations, the experiences, the circumstances that each of us had. We built our system, our paradigm, our way for looking at abundance. It's our picture of the universe as we know it, right? And how it works. Remember that Einstein said that the most important decision, I'm not directly quoting here, but it's close enough. The most important decision that you will make in your life is whether the universe is a benevolent universe or not. Is this a kind or an unkind universe? Well, we all know that this is the most exceptionally gifting universe that we could ever imagine. Everything that we need, everything that we want to manifest, everything we desire, all of the building blocks for that in our life, everything that we need is provided by the universe. The universe only offers, right? We know that in Spontaneous Brilliance, the universe only offers, okay? And it is our paradigm about those offers that gives us our judgment of whether what the universe is giving us at that moment is good enough or bad enough, right? But remember, as Shakespeare wrote in Hamlet, there is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so, right? So we judge based on our paradigm what our abundance is at that moment. Our abundance paradigm that most of us live with is one that assumes that some people have plenty and others don't. We're usually awfully busy kind of seeing where we fall in the range of how much do I have compared to how much do you have, compared to how much they have, how much I should have, how much I used to have, how much I think I can possibly get to, right? But our abundance paradigm is a funny thing because it's about what it is that we have plenty of and how we feel about what we have plenty of. So depending on our paradigm, we might be a glass half full or a glass half empty kind of person. And it's not even really just whether the glass is half full or half empty, but what is the glass half full or half empty of, right? Because what's in your glass? If your glass is full of water and you're thirsty, yay. If your glass is empty of water and you're thirsty, boo. If your glass is half full of motor oil and you're thirsty, ew, right? That's not helpful at all. But if your glass is half full of motor oil and your car's out of oil, yay. So it's really dependent on what we think we need, what we think we want, whether or not our perspective is telling us that our abundance is good enough. There are people with their glasses overflowing, and it's still not enough. Whether it's overflowing with water or motor oil, whichever one they need, it can be gushing out of their glass, and that's not enough. Here's another interesting perspective. There is no such thing as an empty glass. We believe about the glass half full being the glass has to be half full of water, right? In that imaginary thing. But there is no such thing as an empty glass. Empty is an illusion because we live in a field of pure potentiality. We live in a field that is nothing but emanations of energy. And one of those emanations of energy is air. So if your glass looks like it's empty, it's not. That glass is full of air. And air is precious too, depending on your circumstance, right? So empty is an illusion. Lack is an illusion. Air is invisible, just like energy. And we know that everything is energy, and yet some of it, most of it, we don't perceive. Like, for instance, electricity, right? Electricity is invisible. And for most of human history, we didn't know it was there. The human beings on the planet didn't know it was there. We had to learn how to utilize it, how to bring it into our awareness, and all the things it could then do. And now we don't even think of ourselves as abundant when we turn on a light switch. Back when it was created, that was magic. That was major. That was witchcraft. That was freaky and wild and right up there with any kind of amazing magic show we could see today. But today, we forget to be in abundance when we flip on the light, and we just get pissy if the light bulb goes out. None of us worry about how to make sure, well, I hope none of us are like hoarding light bulbs, right? So that we make sure that we never, ever, 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 ever run out. But I know that in my house, for instance, I've not only got the light bulbs, there's a box of light bulbs in the laundry room. There's also candles. There's also a lantern, like a camping lantern, because occasionally the power will go out. We have so many ways to fill that abundance of light. We have so many ways to have a perspective, but on light and on energy and on electricity. But very few of us think of it as, oh my gosh, it's magically abundant. And so our perspective a lot of times is about what we are aware of. We have to be aware of the electricity in order to begin to use it. We have to become aware of our paradigm in order to shift it. Because I want us to think about shifting our abundance paradigm today. So shifting it to recognize that we are in abundance, okay? That we have beautiful, wonderful, glorious, blessing-filled things in every moment. And it all depends on how we look at it. If you're a child and you have a doll and it is scruffy and dirty and ratty and has holes in it, it can still be precious. That's the reason it's scruffy and dirty and ratty and has holes in it. It has been loved that much. It has been the inspiration for an abundance of love, for an abundance of security, for an abundance of being able to calm yourself or whatever it is that you do with that little doll as a child. When we look at it that way, what is precious? What is precious? And what does that preciousness mean? When something is precious, it just means that we are valuing it, that we are aware of its importance in our paradigm. So the first way to start to shift your paradigm is to shift to awareness of what you already have, right? If you notice what you've already got, if you become aware, then you can start to shift your paradigm. I know I have told this story before about the ideal day exercise that a beautiful, wonderful teacher I had once upon a time, she's made her transition, but Julian Zeigert was teaching a class that I was in, and she started teaching us about Arnold Patent and his ideal day exercise. And I got so excited about this ideal day exercise and the idea that human beings are about feelings was Arnold Patent's point, and the universe can take care of the details, and we get wrapped up in frustration when we try to take care of the details, but we need to focus on how we want to feel. So the ideal day exercise in a nutshell is about choosing how you want to feel, and you choose a word for how you want to feel. And so I got so excited about this choosing the words thing that the next day I'm in the shower that morning and I'm like thinking, okay, what is my word? And I couldn't pick just one. So I was like, okay, I pick happy, healthy, wealthy, loved. I was like, I had 7 of them. I had happy, healthy, wealthy, loved, whole, perfect, and complete. There we go. So I had 7 words, right? And so I get out of the shower, I run to the phone, I call Julaine. I'm like, hey, Julaine, I've found these 7 words. And that's what and she's like, okay. She didn't say, okay, take a sedative, but she kind of went, okay, let's just relax. Let's just step back from that and let's pick one. Let's start practicing the focus and let's find one. Okay, so I had an abundance of words, right? An abundance of enthusiasm, an abundance of a lot. But obviously, I thought I didn't have an abundance of those things, right, that were in my list, right? Because I was wanting to feel those things. Happy, healthy, wealthy, right? And so, okay, I picked the one that at that moment, I was running a nonprofit theater company at the moment. So feeling wealthy was not something that was usually happening. It was more like, where are we going to get, the salaries and the stuff and to put on these productions this month. So I picked wealthy. And I started out down to where my office was in downtown Boise, Idaho. And I was running the New Heritage Theater Company, and I'm driving down State Street in Boise, Idaho, and which is like, 4 or 5 lanes wide, and 2 lanes go in one direction, 2 lanes go in another direction, and a turning lane in the middle, something like that. And I'm going down the road, and I'm saying to myself, I feel wealthy. I feel wealthy. I feel wealthy. I'm feeling wealthy today. I'm feeling wealthy today. And I'm going through this process. And as I'm saying that, literally, as I am saying that out loud, money, a bill of money, paper money, comes flying through the air and lands on the windshield of my car. Just boom. And then the wind, takes it off and whips it off to the side. So it comes from my left and goes off to my right. And I see this money flip off into this little side street. And for those of you that might know Boise, Idaho, it's right next to the West Side Drive-In. And so whatever that little side street is, I literally pulled up, pulled around, pulled back through the parking lot and came onto that little side street because the money's still laying there in the middle of the street. I get out of my car and I walk over, and as I get about 3 feet from this money laying in the street, I realize it's a $5 bill. And what is my reaction to that? Oh, it's just a 5. Really? Seriously? But that was my reaction. Okay? I'm going to own that one. And so I pick up the $5 bill, and just as I pick up the $5 bill and I'm standing in the middle of this street holding this $5 bill, this scream comes from clear across State Street of this woman practically hanging out of the window of this truck. And it was a bright red truck, and she's yelling, "You found it! Oh, thank God, thank God, thank God, you found it." And she jumps out of that truck and runs clear across all the lanes of State Street and runs to me. And she's like, "Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You found my $5. I hand it to her, and I'm very stunned. And she says, I was riding along with my boyfriend, holding that in my hand, telling him that was my last $5 in the world and how excited I was of it. And the window was open and it flew out the window. And I was like, okay. And so right then, the red truck that she had been in with her boyfriend apparently driving it drove away. And I was like, your ride's leaving. She was like, yeah, he's mad because I made him turn around and come back so I could get the money. And I said, well, are you stranded now? She said, yeah. I said, well, where are you going? She said, I'm going downtown to 6th and Main. My office was literally at the corner of 6th and Main in the Pioneer Building, which is basically also called 6th and Main. So I offered to give her a ride. And as we're driving downtown, she tells me all about being estranged from her kids and being in all these difficult situations, and she doesn't know where she's going to live next month, and she doesn't da 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 da, and this is her last $5, right? And so I'm taking her downtown. I pull into the parking lot at my office building. I pull into my parking space, and she has a big fit over the fact that I had an assigned parking space. Like, that was a concept that she just thought meant that I had to be living at the top of the universe. I was taking my assigned parking space for granted. I'll mention that one. I was certainly taking my relationship with my spouse at the time and my children and all of that as at the time I only had one child, but my relationship with her was great. And, I couldn't imagine being estranged from my child and my family not talking to me and being estranged from my parents. I mean, my mom was my best friend. So I'm already thinking, holy cow, and I'm noticing the distinctions between her life and mine, right? Her perspective and mine, her paradigm and mine. And then we get out of the car and she thanks me very much. And she goes across the street. And this is a part of the story I don't always tell. But this was also quite indicative of the circumstance, because it was probably, I'm going to say, 8 o'clock in the morning, maybe just a few minutes before 8 a.m. And she leaves me with her last $5 in the world and crosses the street, because we're in a section of town at that time called Old Boise, where all these buildings are over 100 years old, and they're beautiful old buildings, and they have a variety of businesses within them. But she walks across the street to the one bar that is open in Boise at 8 o'clock in the morning. And she walks into that bar with her last $5 in the world. And I stood there and I thought, okay, I don't know which thing to feel more wealthy about right now, because we mix the word wealthy and abundance, right? Abundant and wealthy. We mix those words. I wasn't thinking of the word abundant at that moment. I was thinking of the word wealthy. I felt wealthy as a parent, wealthy in love, abundant in love. I felt wealthy in my relationships. I felt wealthy in my health. This woman's health was definitely not really great. She was missing most of her teeth. And she was, I'm sure, no older than me, possibly younger than me. I felt abundant in every way, but most particularly in my awareness. My entire perspective shifted. That was a miracle moment. I realized in that moment I was not lacking. I was so abundant. And it shifted me. It was a major aha. And we need those awarenesses, those aha moments to help us shift our paradigm. But one thing to remember is that, yes, my perspective shifted in that moment, but I guarantee you that in the 20-ish years since then, I have had moments where I have felt not abundant again, not wealthy again, where $5 was still not enough to really shift where I was at that moment. Or I wasn't just grateful that I have teeth. I wasn't, there was a lot going on because our paradigms are entrenched. We have learned them over time. We have gotten them from people and information and situations and experiences and circumstances, and we've built our system. We've built our structure. And so we have to remember that though those moments, those aha moments will wake us up to our shortfalls in perspective, they don't necessarily break us out of the paradigm. That has to be an active choice of, oh my gosh, not just did I have an awareness moment, but now I'm going to use that. I'm going to make the choice to actively shift my paradigm, change the structure that holds my belief systems about me and my life. So we can try to shift them sometimes and they'll shift right back. We just have to be aware of that. They're going to shift back. There's a hard pull toward the familiar, toward the explainable, toward the repeatable, toward the controllable, toward the excusable. And so we have to be aware constantly and consistently that we have 100% responsibility. Remember that phrase? We have the responsibility to actively make the choice to change our paradigm, to change our perspective, to change how we are seeing our world, our life, our situation. Okay? Abundance is a state of mind. It is an attitude that we choose. Okay? And my favorite attitude, you may have heard me say this before, my favorite attitude is an attitude of gratitude. I think they rhyme for a reason. Attitude and gratitude. It's an attitude of gratitude. And that is where abundance comes from. Because what I was grateful for when that woman started walking away from me, the massive number of things that I suddenly was reminded to be grateful for was what gave me that aha. And so we can choose a practice. We can build our paradigm on gratitude. And I got to bring up my mommy. My mom was an amazing sort of sage without ever thinking of herself that way or intending to be a sage. But one of the ways in which my mom was kind of brilliant was when I was a kid, if something was going wrong and I was complaining or I was sad or I was depressed or I lost something that I thought I couldn't live without, whether the challenge was little or huge, my mom would say, well, count your blessings. And she didn't just say it. She'd actually sit me down and have me count my blessings. So I learned in my life to actually literally do that without her ever making a big deal out of it. She wasn't saying it in some metaphysically hoity-toity way. She wasn't teaching me a spiritual practice. She was, but she wasn't. She taught me in a very matter-of-fact way to develop what was truly a spiritual life practice, but she taught me it as just the thing that you do. When you are in lack, you start counting the things that are the opposite of lack. You start counting your blessings. She taught me the key to almost anything in terms of success and abundance. It's about having a practice, a process that you return to, a ground zero that you return to when things get rough, when things are not going well. Go to your practice, okay? But you've got to have one. That's an important point here. You've got to have a practice, and you can't develop your practice in the crisis moment. The practice is what you return to when the crisis moment hits. So like I've got certain things that I say as I get out of bed in the morning or before I get out of bed in the morning. I've got certain things that I do first thing in the morning. There is lots of gratitude that goes on. There's lots of affirmations that goes on. There's yoga that goes on. There's meditation that goes on. There's all these things that I do. And I really, and even one of them is even making my bed. Like I have established a ritual in the morning. I cannot leave my bedroom in the morning without my bed being made. Now, that would probably surprise my mother because that's not the way I used to be when I was young. But as an adult now, it is a part of my ritual. It's a part of my gratitude ritual and the things that I say as I make my bed. It is a magical factor of abundance that it is directly in proportion to our gratitude. It just is. Abundance equals gratitude. I know I've told you guys a radical gratitude story before, that when things go wrong in my household, and sometimes they go radically wrong, big bunch of people come into the house for a big, huge dinner, and me and my bonus kid, Maya, we were cooking and we realized there's no hot water here. And it's a weekend. There's no way to get this fixed. And so we just started a radical gratitude practice. We managed to get everything baked, everything cooked. Everybody came over. Everybody did the whole evening, and nobody knew. We did not have a functioning water heater. And she and I got through that zero stress by playing a radical gratitude game in the kitchen the whole time. We just, everything we looked at. I'm so grateful that there are pots and pans, and I'm so grateful for whoever invented the first pan, whoever thought of that, and then who thought of putting that pan on the fire, who actually thought of cooking food, whoever they are. I am so grateful that they did that, and I'm so grateful they taught other people to do that, and I'm so grateful for whoever built our stove so that we can boil the water that isn't hot, and just whatever stream of consciousness thing comes. And by the time you've done that for 20 minutes or like we did for a couple of hours, everything is abundance. Everything is amazing. Everything is wonderful. The greatest catalyst for your growth, the greatest catalyst for your shift in perspective is gratitude. I promise you, it is magical. The next thing I'm going to tell you about practice is it's about what we do. So we not only have to have our practice shift our paradigm, we have the awareness, we shift our paradigm, we have the practice, we experience gratitude, but now how do we live into that abundance? How do we live in a practice of being in abundance? Well, I'm going to refer back to another thing my mom used to say. My mom used to say when we were going to do something or something would happen, like I'd be trying to get somewhere or trying to do something and it wouldn't be working out, or I'd get less of something than I was trying to get. She would say, well, you'd better make the most of it. And yeah, that used to frustrate me a lot as a kid. You'd better make the most of it. You know, if an opportunity came up, she would say, you better make the most of it. And that was, interestingly, her making it my responsibility. That was her telling me it was up to me how I chose to see this moment. Not just what did I feel or think about it, but what am I going to do with it? And that applies to everything. When we get something that is exactly what we want, then we don't just sit down and stare at it, right? What are we going to do with it? When we have a desire and it is fulfilled, that's not the end. That's just that one moment in our story. That's not the end of our story, right? We desire something, we take action steps toward it, we go through our whole process. We find the love, we go get it, acting is active, we're doing our thing, we're offering, we're accepting, we're not blocking. Everything turns out beautifully. And now what? Whatever it is that is there in front of us, now we need to make the most of that. We need to know that we came here to experience and continue to experience and elevate that experience each time. Each level we get to, we are moving toward another level, okay? Here's the key to that, my friends. We don't receive abundance. Abundance flows through us, okay? Because nothing happens to you. Everything happens for you. So make the most of it. You share it, you give it, you create it. As you give, so shall you receive. You make the most of it, and you allow it to flow through you. In the words of my brilliant, wonderful friend, Pat McDonald, who made his transition, just an incredible songwriter, incredible wise man. And one of my favorite songs that Pat ever wrote is one that all my kids know the words to because I would quote the song all the time. My kids like to say that the songs that I write are just my lectures to them all smushed into a song. There are several songs, not the least of which is the one song titled Responsible. They are like, okay, if you want to know what it's like to be her kid, this song, that's pretty much all our lectures rolled into one song. But Pat's song, there are lines in it. If you need love, give love. If you need friends, learn to be a friend. And if it's happiness you want, make someone happy. The songs make someone happy, right? But if you are looking for abundance of love, give it. If you are looking for abundance of feeling joy, create it. If you are looking for abundance of money, or you're looking for abundance in your career, or you're looking for abundance of whatever you are looking for, consider it your responsibility to make the most of it by letting it flow through you. Abundance isn't a certain amount of things. It isn't a certain place you get to. It's a frequency you tune into. We are the catalyst. We are the vehicle for our own abundance. Abundance is meant to show up in the world. It is a limitless universe. We are living in a field of pure potentiality. We are unlimited. It's only us, because of our paradigm, that we might be willing to limit that abundance. So abundance flows through us, not to us. And so that makes it our responsibility to allow that flow by tuning into the frequency of abundance. We are spiritual beings of pure, unbounded potential. Our reality appears to be objective, but in fact it is subjective. Our world is a construct of our own interpretations. Our words, our thoughts, our beliefs create our physical world. Our abundance does not come from an external source. It comes from within us. As you believe, so shall it be. It's our perspective and our willingness to offer that which we have, that which we recognize, that which we realize. That which we realize multiplies. We choose what is the abundance that flows through us. It's not whether or not it is flowing through us. It's what it is that's flowing through us. Abundance doesn't change. Energy is flowing. What flows through you does not change. It's not the quantity. The abundance of it does not change. There's a profound, limitless quantity of energy flowing through you. It's the quality of what you do with the energy. It's the quality of the way that you share the you and all that you have to share. It's the quality of the abundance that's up to you. The quantity is unbounded. You channel that abundance into the world. Your glass is always half full. Practice perceiving that. Practice appreciating it. And then practice making the most of it. Okay? So the formula for the shift might be this. It might be that you have the epiphany. You have that awareness of the gifts that are there for you. You have the aha. And then you choose to actively work toward shifting the paradigm. You have to notice the paradigm and then choose to shift it. And then choose gratitude. Notice, recognize, realize, appreciate, focus on the shift. And then choose action. Take action steps. Give of yourself. Make the most of it. It is you. Make the most of it. Whatever it is, whatever you are, whoever you are, however you are, make the most of it. Offer, 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 right? Accept, offer, accept, offer, accept, offer. Don't block. Don't block your abundance. And create that conscious practice, okay? Notice, focus, trust, act, let go. Or as the brilliant Marcy Shimoff would say, attention, intention, no tension. You let it go and you let yourself be, not in a restricted perspective, but in a paradigm that knows that you are unlimited, and therefore you are in nothing but abundance. All right, my beauties, there was the thought for the day. We're going to shift our abundance paradigm, okay? All right, so I'm feeling pretty abundant right now because I just got to spend all this lovely time with you. I hope you are feeling the same. And if you're not, remember, take 100% responsibility for that and get out there and start giving of yourself, and you'll start feeling more and more and more abundant. The more you give, the more you get, right? Gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. All right, have a beautiful, glorious, blessing-filled day, and I will talk to you again soon. The Spontaneous Brilliance Podcast is brought to you by Miracle Communications Group. Our producer is Michelle Oneida. Sound engineer is Corey Michaels at Corey Michaels Productions. Music is composed by Rex Miller. And I'm your host, Sandra Kavanaugh. You can learn more about me and all things Spontaneous Brilliance at sandrakavanaugh.com or spontaneousbrilliance.com. And please join the conversation here at the Spontaneous Brilliance Podcast by emailing us at podcast@spontaneousbrilliance.com.